Yeah,
Got it.
correct.
Achha, Arish is also here. Cool, cool. Okay, quickly. It's recording, right?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
it?
yeah. It's
Okay, cool.
recording.
So what I've done so far is essentially I've declared the array, which is this line, and I've declared a variable, which is a counter, where I will then initiate with that variable the for loop to give it dummy values, which is also known as initialization, right? And initialization for an integer array is to give it the value zero, right? Give each element the value zero. And essentially, what an array is, it's like a box with like multiple spaces in it for you to put data at. So in Python, you wouldn't need to initialize, but in pseudocode, you need to initialize because you need to like communicate to the other. Like basically, the application for pseudocode is that you're in a big like industry making some program or something, and you can't afford to make errors. So you're gonna first write it down in pseudocode and then communicate that to other people. Other people, ke humne ye karna hai, right? So what you're saying with initialization is saying, okay, I have 30 elements. All these elements will have bullshit values at first, but then my program will give them like useful values through the actual loop which comes after initialization. So that's, let me know if you don't get that. I'll like say it in the chat or something, and I will repeat that. But so far, what we've done is we've declared an array from 1 to 30, which is this, and it's an integer array, and we've declared a variable to allow me to initialize, right? I've done that. I've initialized. Cool. Now I need to make another for loop where we're gonna give it actual useful values. So now what I do in Python, when you have a for loop, you can write for count and range and the loop, right? For count and range again, right? I'm not sure whether I can just use counter again in pseudocode. So what I do is I declare a different counter. Now this might be counter productive. Hope you appreciate that pun there. But I just do it because it's safer to do it than like be sorry. Is that it? Yeah, it's better to do it than as opposed to like get it wrong. Right. So now you have another for loop there with counter 2 1 to 30. Right. And earlier I said कि it's better to learn a for loop as a for to next loop. ताकि you remember कि first there'll be a for there, then there'll be a two, and then in the end there'll be a next. Right. Next means कि okay, I'm done with this run of the loop. Now move on to the next one. Right. And there's different conventions of writing pseudocode. If you Google something, right, you might get N for as well over here. But ये हम यही करते हैं, तो I'm gonna stick with this, right? So now I was saying earlier that there's two ways of taking inputs in pseudocode. Either you can write ये, मतलब either you can write input in caps lock or you can write read, right? But हम input ही करते हैं, तो I'm gonna write input, right? And input array counter 2, right? So what this is doing is it's taking input for the array key value based on like the element that you're currently filling in, right? Cool. Now you have two loops. One is initializing and one is giving it the actual values that the program is asking the person to give. Now, before I move on to the encrypt, decrypt wala algorithm, which I think is the hardest logical thing which could show up in the test, not exactly like the encrypt, decrypt value wali thingy, because we've done that in class, but I think doing that will help you guys understand how the logic side of pseudocode works, right? But like we had a quiz in C1 where they asked you to like use div and mod and stuff like that. So I can go over what that stuff does as well because that gets a bit confusing, right? And if you don't get this, let me know in chat. But I am gonna now initialize for string, right? So now, had you said that this was a string, right? Declare array 1-30 of string, and you had to initialize for a string, you would use double quotes, which means an empty string, right? And if you had initialized the array of character, which I write as car, this ye wala spelling, that would be single quotes, right? In pseudocode, it matters whether you use double quotes or single quotes because single quotes is exclusively for characters in every other language apart from Python. But Python does not care if you use single quotes or double quotes. Python is like fine with this as well for character. But pseudocode will make sure you use single quotes for character because ताकि you can like communicate to the teacher कि okay miss I know कि character is exclusively single quotes for the pseudocode convention, which is mostly used in terms of like programming around the world, right? Cool. That's character, integer, and string. Now I think there's also real, right? So real, like in the quiz that C1 had, if you guys wanted to like use real instead of like a integer for the values that people were putting in, so you would go zero point 0.0, right? You would put a zero point 0.0 there because a float is essentially like a normal number, but like with a decimal point there. So a number that's not a whole number, that is what a real number is. And in Python, you can also call it a float, right? It's called a float sometimes. You can also declare an array of boolean, boolean, right? Right. And for this initialization, we'll be always setting it to false, right? So you would set it to false because false means कि ये हमने अभी तक इस पे कोई program वाला system नहीं किया, right? That means we haven't done anything to this that would set it into true, right? So it stays false, right? This was what we were doing in class when like we were running a loop to see if we had gotten like okay, we were running a loop to generate random numbers, and if we got those numbers, then we were setting on that position corresponding to that number in the array, we were going there and we were setting it to true. So I think I can do that as well, right? After I do the, or I can do that before we do the encrypt bolero because Miss Mina writes it as encrypt, and it's funny when I talk about it to people, so I just say that accidentally. But I am gonna do the Boolean wali thing where you when you get the random number. I'm just writing this just so I remember what I'm doing. That you can no, you can ignore this, right? Okay, so if you guys get what I've done so far, let me know in chat, and if you don't, let me know that as well. I'll explain something again. In particular, if you don't get like a particular part, let me know that as well, right? Okay, but now I'm gonna move on to the Boolean random number wala algorithm where when you got this number, you were gonna set that corresponding number ka element in the pseudocode wala thing. I'm not speaking English right now, but okay, it'll make more sense when I do it, right? It's hard to kind of explain. Okay, but the Boolean number, you're gonna again declare an array, right? Declare array 1-30 of you need these are square brackets. Sorry, that was a mistake. Declare array of Boolean. Cool. I'll come back and declare the counter vale when I'm done explaining why it's an array of Boolean. But Boolean is essentially a value where you can set it to true or false, right? So in Python, if you just go into the idle, which is like in Python when you program, there's like two sides of Python. One, you can like go in there and make a new file and write everything, and then when you press F5, then you run it. There's another version of that same sort of like running aspect where you can just go into there and type code and press enter, it'll run at that exact second. Right? It'll be like almost real time, right? Not real time so much. But you can write while true, and then after that you can write print brackets, double quotes, this is Python that I'm talking about, and then write anything in that, and then it'll infinitely print it. So what that true is, that is a Boolean value that you can assign to a variable. So instead of writing while true, you could have written while Junaid, and you could have before that written Junaid is equals to true, right? So in particular, that's what Boolean values can be ranging from. So a Boolean value will either be true or it'll be false. So that's why in this array, each element will either be true or false. That's why when you initialize it, you will need to set all of them to false to begin with, right? So I'm just going to copy over the declaration of the counter, right? And then after that, also I'm going to copy over the initialization for the Boolean value, right? So I hope this makes sense so far, but you're declaring an array ranging from elements 1 to 30. You can count that on your fingers. That'll be 30 elements, right? And it'll be of Boolean. And you can declare counter as integer. and then you do for counter 1 to 30, and then you have that same array that you've defined over there. You're setting every value of that to false, right? I hope that is something that makes sense to you guys. Again, let me know in chat if something particularly is confusing, but the reason we're doing initialization in pseudocode to begin with is because, like I said a few minutes ago, you need to communicate to your teacher, okay, I know that these, like this array that I've made, it has X amount of variables. And in all of these variables, I'm going to need to assign it particular values, which I will later on change based on my program key requirements. Right. So I know that was a very convoluted statement, but like I said above, when you initialize a value, it's very important that when you have a real number, which I'm calling float because it isn't, it's float in pseudocode, but no, sorry, it's float in Python, right? But when you're initializing a float, it's very important for you to write 0.0 point 0, because then you're making that you're like portraying, okay, I know that a float is decimal numbers, whilst an integer is just a zero, or like it'll be a zero to initialize, but it's just a whole number, right? And then the same characterization with a character and a string, right? So string double quotes because you know, okay, my string is gonna have double quotes because that's what double quotes denotes in pseudocode, right? And my character will be written with single quotes because that is what single quotes imply in pseudocode, right? Okay, 1 second. I just need to go over there and grab my copy because I need to like see what the. I also am kind of blanking on one particular thing, which I will explain to you very well, but give me 1 millisecond. My apologies. Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm back. Let me just get that open for you guys. Okay, cool. Okay, so in C1 there was a bit of a hot debate that we have with the teacher, but I'm just gonna tell you what the two sides are, and you can choose whatever you want, right? But I'm gonna get to that in a second, right? But I've now initialized all my Boolean values as what I would. I'm initializing them with all false because that is. But I'm sorry, I was reading, so I'm saying dumb shit. But I've initialized them as all false because that's what initialization is for a Boolean value, right? And now I'm going to give them actual values, right? So I need to copy over the second counter key declaration because I have two for loops, right? In this for loop, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to have counter 2, right? And my arrow, 1, 2, sorry, 2 is capital, 230, right? And second line, I will have again array counter, but what it'll do is it'll be a bit different, right? Sorry, it's going to caps lock again, right? Cool. Now, I'm sure you guys know this in class, but if you don't, I'll just tell you again. When you want to find a random number, you'll do R&D. You want to get like a random number generated. What R&D does is it gives you a random number from zero to zero
Wait,
to.
is R&D coming?
I don't think it is, but I'm just like teaching you pseudocode as
Oh, okay.
a
Okay.
pro teacher.
Yeah, sure.
Huh? I'll just quickly do it. Like you guys don't need to worry about it. But I don't think R&D are it, but just do it in
Uh,
case because I'm not sure.
yeah. All right.
Okay, but R&D will give you a random value from 0 to 1 second, 0.9999. That's why when you want a normal like human being wala digit jo like we use human being nahi, so you want an integer, right? So you'll do int bracket or d. So either tak what this is doing is it's saying again, if it was just this, you would be doing something like it would always be 0, right? because इसमें 1 तो नहीं आना R&D में, it'll be 0.7, 0.8, 0.6. ऐसी values आनी है with just R&D, right? So what that would do is it's just saying, okay, ये 0.6 को integer कर दो, 0.6 का integer, as far as I'm aware, will just be zero because you don't need to know this dumb stuff, but I'm just explaining के आगे वाली चीजें, why we do it like that, right? You've got a value between 0 and 0.99. That's why inside this R&D wala bracket, right, you'll multiply this by your upper bound, right? And then iske baad you'll do plus one, right? And the reason you're doing this is because say you get 0.7 or something like that, you get some random value, and your upper bound, let me just copy paste this. Your upper bound is like 50, right? So what that is doing is it's taking your R&D key values, which are between 0 and 0.99 to begin with, and it's putting them in a way that they're from 0 to 50, right? And what that plus one is doing is this plus one at the end. This allows you to also get 50 as a value. If you didn't have this plus one, then you would get like 0 to 49 value range hoti, right? And this is where the debate sprung in C1, which is that agar you want to define the lower bound, right? So you have the upper bound, which is 50, right? So this would always go 0 to 50. If you do this, it'll go always 0 to 30, right? But what if you want to make it go 1 to 30, which is what is required by my algorithm? Then initially Miss said, okay, you do this, which is plus 1. And that's not just plus 1, that's plus your lower bound, right? But what happened here is that हमने कर लिया plus 1 because we wanted 1 to 30, right? The CIE guideline for the same question that we were doing, which asked us for 1 to 30, they just left it like this. So I was like, Miss, that's 0 to 30, right? She was like, yeah, that's 0 to 30. But this plus 1 is the way that you define your lower bound in VB.net, which is visualbasic.net. In pseudocode, there's no way to define your lower bound. That's why if a question of R&D does come in your test, which I don't think it will, I don't think it'll require you to figure out your lower bound. That's why, just to not make it confusing, I'm going to change this to 0 to 30, right? And I'll do 0 to 30 over here as well. This will be 31 elements, but I'm explaining why I'm doing that in 1 second. Basically, the reason I'm doing 0 to 30 and not 0 to 29 is not because I want, like, the concept of this program is not that I want 30 elements in my array. It's that I want to be able to, मतलब जो मेरा random number हो, I want to be able to go to that position of that number in this array and turn that to true. So if I do 0 to 29, but my range is producing numbers from 0 to 30, then 30 aaya, so there's no 30th position, right? There is 0 to 29. There are 30 elements, but there's no 30th position because there is not that 31st element which allows me to go 0 to 30. So that makes sense. Let me know. If it doesn't, I'll explain it again. But essentially, now I have initialized up there, right? Now down here, yeah, sure. So what I'm saying is that the reason in this particular program I've done 0 to 30 and not 0 to 29 is because I don't need 30 elements in counting. Like had I done 0 to 29, I know when you count that on your fingers, you'll get 30 elements, right? But 0 to 30 is 31 elements, right? So the reason I want 31 elements is not because the question doesn't want me to have 30 elements. The question wants me, okay, whichever random number I generate, say I generate 7, it wants me to go to the 7th position in my array and turn that to true. So if my range is 0 to 30 in the question, it says generate random numbers from 0 to 30. And then go to that position in the array and turn that to true. So now if I get 30 in my sort of my random number wali algorithm, right? And then I want to go to the 30th position and turn that to true. I will need numbers from 0 to 30 to do that, which actually means I have 31 elements, right? I can't have 0 to 29 and then somehow go to the 30th position and turn that to true because there is no 30th position, right? Obviously, there are 30 elements. What I mean by 30th position is jab square brackets me write a number, you go to that number's position, right? So you can't go to 30 because it's 0 to 29. The max index that you have is 29. You don't have a 30th index. That's why 0 to 30 as opposed to 0 to 29. because in 0 to 29, my maximum index is 29, but in 0 to 30, my maximum index is 30. And say I randomly generate 30, तो मैं 30 की position पे जाके उसको true करना है ना. I don't need 30 elements. I need the value 0 as an index, and I also need the value 30 as an index. I don't care about how many elements I have. I just need to be able to go in my random number generated key algorithm, and whichever number I get, I need to be able to go to that number's position and turn that to true, right? So say I get 30, I will need to be able to go to the 30th index and turn that to true. Now 30th index, if you count, will actually be the 30th first position, right? But that index will be 30. And if I want the 30th position, which is index 29, then I won't have that 30th position, which will allow me the liberty to go to 30 and turn that to true. I think I might have made it more complicated with that explanation, but I hope that made a bit more sense.
That did make more sense, but I just want to like clarify कि अगर so this is a 0 to 30. This is for when you're doing random, right? R&D.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm fine with doing 1 to 30.
Yeah, you're fine with doing 1 to 30 because random mein that lower bound wala issue aa gaya. Because the teacher was
Yeah,
like,
I got that.
there's no way
Yeah.
to generate a lower bound. So it'll
Hmm.
always be 0 to something.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Either I can do 20 as well. So that'll be 0 to 20. Right? So that's the thing. Varna, isme you can also do 1 to 30 like I've done above. ऐसे you can also
Uh-huh.
do 1 to 30
Yeah.
and go 1 to 30. Like वो भी चलता है.
Hmm.
And actually our teacher likes 1 से शुरू करना for some reason.
Yeah. And pseudocode.
But but zindagi is like limited actually. Life is like not as
Yeah.
free
It's,
as it might
it's
seem.
like crazy or something.
Yeah, yeah. अच्छा now bismillah से शुरू करते हैं, brothers and sisters. Right, so now you're assigning your array counter. Fine. So what you're gonna do is first I'm gonna think for a millisecond. Right now I'm done thinking. Cool. Okay. Now I need a variable where I will get my number, right? So number as integer, right? इसको भी initialize करना पड़ेगा sadly, so इसको number arrow number को
Is
zero लिखना पड़ेगा.
initialization necessary for like everything? Because in O levels it wasn't necessary, and suddenly in A levels it's really important.
In A levels, yeah, I agree with you. It is a bit more important because O levels में they were like जो करना है कर लो, bro. We were mixing Python and pseudocode together. We were like, भाई ये क्या हो रहा है? Like actually, I was writing print with brackets in pseudocode. Miss was marking it right. I wrote a for loop in pseudocode once and I forgot next. I forgot two. I wrote full Python wali, and she was like, yeah, correct. So in A levels, because now you also have modules and you have like all this complex stuff as well, I think they're going to be more strict with like how you do stuff. Like R&D is a module which exists in pseudocode, so it's a bit more strict. But अगर number को नहीं initialize किया नहीं करो bro, like छोड़ दो, like number बेचारे को नहीं initialize करो. I just like making my code so, I'm not gonna say so correct because ego nahi hai, at least abhi nahi hai, like not this hours. But like you need to make your code so close to like what they want from you that there's no margin for them to go like ye bacha kya kar raha hai, right? Because that margin is what messes you up. That margin is like, the margin is so slim that if you add number in one position with the n capital, फिर कहीं और you've written an n lowercase, if your teacher's a bit off in her mood, she'll be like, hey, yeah, these are two different variables. This code is wrong logically. Even though बंदा देख के कहता है यार it's a poor child who hasn't slept all night, ये n capital है, ये n capital नहीं है, तो obviously this kid's not like ijadifying, ijading another variable. That's the same variable that they're just using, right? But anyways, done with my rant. Now you have number. You've assigned it your integer random value. Now you're going to do this if statement within your for loop. So this is called a nested if, right? So now you have if number. Sorry. No if number. Sorry. Yes, that's correct. Wait, one moment. Oh no, I'm just being dumb. Sorry. Okay. Wait, I'm just being very dumb. That is not what my intention is. Right? There is no if statement here. I was doing decryption whilst telling you guys what this is. Right? That is my mistake. Okay. Sorry. I'll explain. my mistake and what was going on in my brain, right? Okay, so the reason I was saying you can do this without an if statement is because you can also assign the counter value of the number that you get. Like you can do this, right? Yeah, like this. You can do this thing. Um, you can simply do this and assign that as true, right? But what the teacher expects us to do, expected us to do in class at least, was that you cycle through every single element until you get the element that is equals to the number that you've just gotten, and then you make that into true, which I think is a bit like lamba for no reason. So you can just do this. This will work exactly the same way because you've generated a number which is between 0 and 30, and now array the same position of that number, you're going there and setting it to true, right? So this should work just as well as that would work. Even though you can't run pseudocode logically, this is like, I would say, superior to that, because then you would run every single array for no reason. जब पता है कि इस number पे जाना है, तो why are you running through every single one, right? This is the difference between like, अच्छा भाई काफी बोल दिया है, thank you. I don't know what I was gonna say, but yes, I see a question in chat that asked me, okay, can you declare multiple variables in the same line if they're the same type? Yes, you can. So I've done all of this different stuff on different lines. That's because I was doing it. Matlab, ek line I wrote, and then I went down in my code. Then I came back and I was like, oh, I need to write one more line. But if you have the foresight to know कि कितने variable declare करने हैं, तो of course you can do this as well, right? Yeah, I mean, like, of course you can do this. And there's also a way to declare and assign at the same time, but वो मुझे नहीं आता, and वो करना भी पता नहीं. I don't know whether you should be doing that or not. But there is a way to do that as well, which I will not recommend to you guys. So this is how you do the random number thing, where whatever number you get, जो ये random number आ रहा है, right, between 0 and 30, I'm getting a random number. And now I'm going to that number, the corresponding position of that number in the array in terms of where the elements are, not in terms of the position of the elements, but the index alone. So if I got 30, that would be the 31st location if you start counting from the first element, but that would be the 30th index, right? Then I'm going there and I'm setting that to true, right? Now encrypt, decrypt, fun code, right? Okay, yeah. Question, go ahead, just say.
I was asking, I didn't pay much attention in class, but can a question like this come, like generate random odd numbers between the range 0 to 1000, for example, or something like that?
Yeah, it could come possibly, but then you would need to use
RNG.
modulus, I think, right?
Yep.
I believe so. I think, one second. Let me just open up the code that I have. But yeah, Ryan, that's very likely. Like I'm not saying, I'm saying random, like random key jo hai, the algorithm of random, like the R&D. I'm not sure if that's coming or not, but if it is, then the question you just said is like very likely, because they like making you like use every single type of Python key, not Python key, but like just every single type of programming ka structural thing like mod and whatever. So that's why in our quiz we had a question where you need to use modulus in one of them, and दूसरे में div भी use करना था, right? So in Python you could do this thing. So if you want to find whether some number is odd, right? So then, and then if you want to see if it's like even, then you would do something like this. Oh, sorry, I keep going off the window. That, and then 2 is equals to 0. So this means कि अच्छा 20 modulus 2 equals to 0, मतलब कि ये even number है क्या है, right? So if you want to check if this is odd, you can do this in Python, right? You can do this in Python, or you can do like some other thing. So what I just do in Python is जब odd number ढूंढना है, तो I just do is not equals to 0. Okay, yeah, if you guys need to leave, you can leave, Aisha. That's no problem. The recording should get to you somehow. But yeah, okay, cool. Just anyone needs to leave, you guys can leave as and like however you please. But if you do have any questions in particular, let me know in chat or whatever, because like I would prefer to like answer those questions and then like direct my sort of rambling towards what you guys don't get, because it would be like a lot better for you guys as opposed to me just screaming about variables for like 30 minutes, right? But now I will continue streaming about variables, right? But Rhyme, that is a good question. And I think if random aa raha hai, to that could also very likely come. So let me just show you how that would be done. Now, say you've done all of this stuff at the top, whatever, right? You've declared a counter. This is a different program, so I'm going to put these lines down there. You have a counter. It's been declared. Now you have a for loop. So for counter, that 0 to, I think Rhyme said 1000. Yeah, sorry. So now you have a counter which is running from 0 to 1000. Now, if you just printed, if you came in here and you printed just counter and you did next. So this would print all the numbers from 0 to 1000, right? But I don't want that. I want to print all the odd numbers from 0 to 1000. So what am I going to do now? I'm going to put an if statement in here. I'm going to say if. Now this will also teach you how not equals to works in pseudocode, right? So in Python, that would be an exclamation mark equals to. In pseudocode, I will just show you what that is, right? So now what you'll do, I like putting everything in brackets, that it's like really nice and neat and whatnot, right? But if counter mod to, this is not equals to. So this is how you add not equals to in pseudocode. If it's not equals to 0, then print counter. So what this is doing is that it's printing, like initially the counter ki jo loop hai, it's going from 0 to 1000, and then it's checking ki, okay, counter modulus 2, is that not equals to 0? If it was equals to 0, then that would mean ki it's an even number. But if it's not equals to 0, then that means that's an odd number, right? So it's saying, okay, if it's an odd number, then you print counter and then you do the next value. So this is what Ryan's code required you to do, right? Encrypt, decrypt, I like doing this in Python because Python is a lot more fun to do this in, right? So like that is also, you can run it and get instant input, output, whatever you want, right? But I'll do it in pseudocode. Then if I want to do something fun with you guys, then I will do it in Python as well. But I think that would confuse you. So I won't run it unless you guys don't understand what the algorithm is doing, then I'll run it in Python, right? But I just want to show you it in pseudocode really quickly, take it's a lot easier for you guys to do it if something similar comes in the test, which I don't think they'll ask you to encrypt and decrypt, because that would be very much okay, humne solution de diya class mein, now come and write it down, which I don't think they want us to do. They want us to use our brains, because A level pseudocode is a lot about using your brains. Like CI may you'll go and like do questions which are like super confusing. You'll be like, what is this question? Like I don't get it. Okay, R&D is not coming. That's fine. I was just explaining it कि अगर ना आया हो class में, but encrypt decrypt does not have R&D in it, so I'll do that right now. But R&D isn't coming. That's fine, right? But this thing could still come, right? This thing is just print. It's just going through zero to. It's going from 0 to 1000 and it's printing the odd numbers. So this thing definitely 100% could come, because you need to know what mod does and you need to know what div does, right? So do go over that. Also, do go over your quiz, the one that everyone messed up. I mean, maybe you're smart, right? But everyone got 5s and belows, right? Or some, like either you got 5 and below or you got like 7 or above, right? So those guys. There is the quiz like the solution is up on Google Classroom. So I will open up that solution and explain it to you guys, right? And do it again a bit as well, that it comes across a bit better. But I think Miss Mina has uploaded the solved solution on the Google Classroom, right? I'll show you alternatives as well to that. It'll be cool, right? But just really quickly, let me do encrypt, decrypt, and then I'll get that as soon as possible, right? Okay. Let me know if you don't get this logically. I will go really quickly to convert it to Python and run it to show you guys how it actually works. But you will need two variables to begin with. So what you'll do is you'll declare, you will declare, okay, in the in the test, sorry, I was about to say quiz, but in the test, please do give your variables meaningful names. I'm just going to do A and B, ताकि it saves time over here. But in your test, please do give variables meaningful names because ताकि then your teacher will know what your variable intended to do, right? So now, but I've got A and B as strings. So now A is the, sorry, it's going capital, buddy. Oh my God, what is this? Okay, this will just be the entire alphabet. Sorry, I forgot how to type the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Okay, so that's the entire alphabet as it is normally. And you had B, sorry, which is just your computer ka jo layout hai, which is a bit different as opposed to the, obviously it's different to the actual alphabet, but it is the same thing, kind of differentiated, right? And you will be having a couple for loops, everything, but the point of this is that I can zoom in, right? Okay, the point of this sort of algorithm is that when you enter in a string, the A will turn to the Q, the F in your string will turn to the Y, whatever the corresponding alphabet is, it'll turn to that. Right? So that's our goal with this particular program. So how are we going to get to that? How are we going to do that? Cool. So you're going to have another variable, sadly, which I'll just name C, right? And then you'll ask them to input C for you, right? So now they've inputted C for you. And now what you're going to do with C is now you're going to run a for loop, right? Or I need some counters as well. So I'm just going to declare the first counter, and any other counters that come down the line, I'm going to put them in the same sort of statement because I don't want to have a million statements, right? Okay, so you're going to declare a counter, you're going to use this counter, and this counter will actually run from 0 to the length of C, right? I think this is more appropriate, right? So it's running from 0 to the length of C, where length C is the actual like variable with which these guys have just put in, and that variable is a string as well, right? Now within this for loop, you're gonna have a an if statement, right? But before you run that if statement, you're gonna have to run another for loop with a different counter, which will be counter 2, right? And I'll just explain why that is in a second. Okay, counter 2. So the reason you have two for loops is because wait, I'll actually do it first and then explain it. Sorry, but it's just a bit easier to explain when once you have it like that. Okay, 0 to 20 is that 26? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's 26 or 25. I don't know. My math's a bit off. But you're running it from you're running 0 to 26, right? Okay, yes, that's 26. Thank you. Okay. So you're running 0 to 26. Okay, cool. You're running it from 0 to 26. And now what you're gonna want to do is inside of this second for loop, you're gonna do this. A. Cool. That's your, remember that is your yeah, well, this is A, right? Now, sorry, you're not gonna do A. You're gonna do if, sorry, there is an if statement there. If counter, so if C counter, cool, is equals to, then you've got A counter 2, and cool, you're gonna need another array as well, which is decrypted, where your decrypted thing. Okay, so I am on my computer, so I can go in there and actually like add more variables to this. But what you guys would be doing is like down here, you'll be adding more variables. So I suggest like actually leaving some space in the middle, taki we can come back and like add some more arrays, because then it gets like not arrays, sorry, add some more variables, because then it gets really messy if you add like arrows coming out of like this area, and then up there you're assigning more variables in the same line because you haven't left enough space. I do prefer to leave some space in the middle then, right? But cool. So now you're going to do this thing. Then was it capital? No, sorry. Decrypted. Sorry, that is very much a nuisance. Decrypted. So I don't know how to make this symbol, but this is a symbol that you make, which is the Python alternative for like I'll show you. So in Python, you can do something like this. Sorry, let me just make a division. In Python, you can do something like, say you have a counter, right? And it's not one of these counters that we're using over here. It's just something that you have inside a for loop where you're going to do something like counter plus one. So you every time you're adding one to it. So in pseudocode, instead of this plus, you're going to have this and, right? And this and is specifically, sorry, this example is like a bit convoluted, but this and is specifically for strings. So in pseudocode, in Python, what you could do is you could have like a string called string, right? String is equal to string plus like q or something. So in this loop, every time you're adding the character q to your actual string. So in pseudocode, this guy will become an and, which is this, right? So you'll do that. You'll do decrypted and sorry. Wait, no. Okay, so we're gonna encrypt first, then we're gonna decrypt. Okay, so that was fine then. Cool. So for this now, you'll also need to like come up here and declare decrypted as equals to nothing, right? That. Now there'll be a little bit of an end if here. No, sorry, not N4. You can do N4 as well, but next is preferred, right? So what this code is doing, okay, you have all these variables. You have A, you have B, you have C, you have decrypted. What is A? A is your entire alphabet as it normally is. B is your encryption algorithm. So like I said earlier, A will become Q, will be B will be, A will become Q, B will become W, C will become E, right? Something like that. Decrypted is where you're going to store your string once you've decrypted it, which now I realize this should be encrypted because like I said, I was going to encrypt it first and then decrypt it. Sorry. I realize that is confusing, but I will try and explain it in a way that it's not as confusing as it should be. Right now, again, sorry, I have 4 string variables and 2 integer variables. My 4 string variables are A, B, C, and encrypted. My A is having the normal alphabet. My B has my encryption algorithm, which is essentially saying that okay, A will become Q, A will become Q, B will become W, and encrypted is where I'm going to store my encrypted value, right? And C is where I'm taking my input. So C is where something that I want to eventually make encrypted would go. So something like someone's name or something. So like say that in this input somebody inputted like the word John or something, right? Not the word, the name, sorry. Then what you would do is you would come in, like the reason there's 2 integer k variables is because you need to have 2 for loops. So this is a for loop with a for loop inside it. That's called a nested for. This is a for loop which has an if statement inside it. That's called a nested if, right? Again, don't ever write that an if inside a for loop is a nested if. I'm just calling it to tell you, okay, it's inside something, but a nested if is actually an if inside an if, right? But ऐसा कोई question नहीं आएगा which will ask you to make that make sense. I'm just ranting at this point. But what this code is doing, and I'm going to highlight it so you know what exactly I'm talking about, is this. Sorry, what just happened there? Okay, the next went to the next page. Sorry. Okay, now that's the entire code. Okay, so the first line for counter arrow 0 to length C, what that's doing is that basically your input C, which was John for this particular example, it's going to go through every single letter of that, right? And how it'll go through every single letter is that John made the J will be 0, O will be 1, H will be 2, and then N will be 3, right? So this is calling every single letter key position in John, right? And this counter is going to call every letter's position in this string. So now what this very crucial line is doing is it's saying the first for loop I have, which is for counter, right? That's going to go through every single letter in John's name. So say I've chosen J now. What it's going to do is okay, it's chosen J, first one, chosen. Now it's coming to the second loop, which is for counter 2, 0 to 26. Now what it's going to do, each and every time this loop runs, is going to check if J is equals to A ka counter 2. So this line may A counter 2 will keep updating, but counter won't because I'm inside this loop now. Once I'm done with this loop, which means running from 0 to 26 fully, then I'll be able to go into my counter loop again and now check O. So what this loop is going to do is it's going to take J, it's going to run it, find out, okay, in this string, where does J occur, right? Okay, it's like, okay, it happened here. It finds the exact index position of J. And then what it's doing in the encrypted wala variable is it's taking that particular position. But now to that encrypted variable, it's adding that position key B value. So it's located this counter to position. It did it by checking when this if statement is true. Once it's true, okay, it's had it. It's found the position of J in my normal alphabet. Now B, since that's my encryption algorithm, now into the encryption wala variable where I'm adding my encrypted string, right? It's going to go and add to that from the same location as my normal alphabet, which in this case, my encryption algorithm was that my normal alphabet, each letter of that will correspond to a different alphabet in my different alphabetical character in my encryption algorithm. So now it's checking, okay, I have the position of the actual alphabet wala letter. Now I have a similar string to the actual alphabet, which has my encrypted letters in it. So now I'm going to go to that same position in A, in B, and add the encrypted version of that. Yes, let me know if that makes sense. Yes or no. That is how you encrypt it.
Why are we choosing, first of all, why are we choosing like two counters? I don't get that.
Okay. So Rhyme, essentially you're gonna have to cycle through my input C. So I think it's better if I tell you what the inputs are to begin with. Right, let me just get this entire program onto a new page so I have space to work with. Right? This was my entire code. This line in particular, I'm asking for an input. Right? I'm just gonna call, like, I'm not gonna call it anything, sorry. This is where I'm gonna come down and draw my trace table for this program, right? So say my input C was, like I said, John. Nothing capital, sorry, because this does not have we're not doing anything like is lower or anything in pseudocode. We're not putting it to lower. We haven't done that voila module yet, right? But my input C was John, right? Now I have two loops. Rhymes asked why I have two loops. My first loop, which so I'm just gonna add a couple slashes and then call this loop 1, and then this is loop 2. So what's gonna happen is that okay, I'll show you guys this on Python as well. Just give me 1 second till I explain this in pseudocode. If you don't get it, then I will still go to Python, but let me just do it in pseudocode, because the test is in pseudocode, right? But my first loop, sorry, loop one. Loop one is essentially, sorry, I'm gonna, it'll be hard to type and write, but my loop one is going to cycle through every letter of John, right? It's going to cycle through every letter of John. So loop 2, sorry, is inside loop 1. right? So what this does is that when it runs, initially my value of loop one, it becomes j, right? Which is the first character of the John. And how that's done is that for counter 0 to length c. So this j is actually position 0 of variable c, which contains मतलब variable c के अंदर है John, right? John's name is inside variable c, and the position 0 of variable c is j. मतलब loop one's value has become j, right? Now loop one's value stays j whilst loop 2 cycles through every letter in A from A to Z. तो मतलब ये बंदा J रहेगा and my sorry, so this guy has state J, right? Loop 1 will make, it'll choose J, it's chosen J, sorry, I'm a bit flustered, but it's chosen J, right? And now whilst that stays J, loop 2 will keep updating, right? So let me go in here, loop 1 j, right? Loop 2 a. So this is how it'll keep running, right? It'll keep doing this, right? So the second, oh my, what did I do? Okay, cool. Sorry, I thought I copy pasted the entire thing. So now it'll become b, c. So the fact that there's a loop inside a loop means that pehla loop ran one time. Now it's run one time, so the loop inside it will run 26 times. And then once it's run 26 times, then it'll come back up to the actual loop. Cool? So this will be D. This will be E. It'll keep doing that until it gets to J. Once it has got to J, then okay, say it finds K. Once it gets J, so once it gets J, it has the variable A value for J. Since the encryption algorithm such that the location in A is encrypted using the corresponding B value. Thus, this line exists, which the line that I'm talking about is this line. Does that make sense now, Ryan? A bit more sense?
Yeah, it does. No, thanks.
Okay, now I'll run it in Python as well, ताकि you guys can see at every point what is the value. I'll also have like print them all out.
Can
Right,
you
so
zoom out?
Can I zoom out? Yeah, sure. With all these words, or would you want to see the actual code?
I just want to see the explanation.
Okay, cool. Let me get it onto one page. I'm a bit of a very perfectionist kind of person. Let me just get rid of some of them, ताकि like get the line for you as well. Cool. I'm gonna pause the share here and then open up my open up the thing, the cool programming thing. 1 second. Okay. You can take a screenshot of this, do whatever you want, but I think I can like get it. I think I can give you guys this document as well, because it's not some like secret or something, not a prized possession of mine. Python idle. Okay. I'm assuming I can like move on to the idle the Python thing. Okay. Okay, cool. So this is Python. Let me just see if it's gonna ask me for some money or something, or like ask me to do something else for it to print, or if it's gonna run. Okay, cool. Fine. So now Python's obviously a lot easier. Please don't confuse Python and pseudocode. You don't have to declare in Python, luckily, but in pseudocode you do have to declare, which is a bit sad, right? But I'll quickly run it in Python so you guys understand what the decryption algorithm is also like. So sorry, let me just encryption. That's how you add a comment in Python, right? Cool. Abdullah, I completely agree with you. Python is a lot better than pseudocode, but we have to go with what we have. I'm actually gonna go with light mode because my eyes are hurting because of dark mode for some reason, right? But essentially, cool. For count in I'm making the counter before I actually do the thing, which is not smart, but A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S T U V W X Y and Z. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna have to count all the alphabets again. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. 26. Okay, cool. I know there's 26 alphabets, but I need to like confirm. Nah, it's a OCD wala scenario. Okay, cool. Like, what if they changed, right? Like, what if from the last time I did it, what if they changed? Use my cursor. Fine, bro, stop bullying me. Like, that's not why you guys are here. You guys are here to learn, not make fun of me, okay? This is not warranted. It's not cool. Done. Wonderful. So I'm running it 0 to 26 because actually mathematically it should be 0 to 25 because if you start from 0, you're going to end up on 25, right? Which will actually be 26 alphabets. But again, remember, Python may you'll stop one less, right? So this will actually run 0 to 25, which will be 26. Does that make sense? I'm sorry if it does not because I am seeing a bunch of random stuff right now. But cool. Actually, इस loop से पहले you need this, right? Len b, meaning b to whoever, sorry. C is equals to input. What's up with this, guys, bro? Enter string. Cool. C. Python mein length function is actually len, just len, right? You'll be doing this guy, and I'll actually print out the count value, right? Here, this will help you guys understand a lot better, hopefully. Right? Print nahi karna, sorry, for karna. For count in range 0, 26. Cool. You will have an if statement inside of it. Your if statement will be if, sorry, count nahi hai, wo count upar use ho raha hai. Sorry, that's going to make a bit of an issue. Counter. Okay. So if counter, Ahmed needs to think now. Okay. If, okay, cool. So you're going to check whether ye wali value is over there somewhere. So C, Bismillah. Okay. If C count is equals to, let us A counter. I might be a bit wrong on the Python ka syntax and I will fix that, but just pretend like it never happened because I am very used to pseudocode now, right? But if C count is equals to A counter, then encrypted is equals to encrypted plus G, ये है B का counter. Cool. Okay, no end if needed, no end for is needed, mashallah. But print किधर करना है? I need to print something for you guys as well, right? Ah, cool. Okay. Print. Okay, so I'll actually print out your either ऊपर I'll print out C का count ताकि you guys know what alphabet it's on, and over here I'll print out your A का counter. Cool. And over here I'll write some dumb shit like print success or something ताकि you guys know exactly what's happening. Okay, cool. I'm sorry that spelling's wrong. Right, and then outside everything. Oh, bhai. Outside all these loops. Bhai, stop being annoying. Okay, and then print your encrypted. Okay, hopefully this runs. If it doesn't, basically ho jayegi, but I will fix it then. You're correct. Yes, I should initialize encrypted up here because it is changing in your string. Yeah. Okay, enter string. I'm just gonna enter the same one taki it's like an example. Okay, cool. Oh, that is cool, but I should have written some stuff for you guys as well. Sorry, that was. I'll explain it now better because I just need to see if it runs. Now I'll just add some like stuff that you guys know. So you guys know how it what is it's actually doing. अच्छा भाई ठीक है कमेंट डालना है माफ करें okay okay so first loop on value is j now it's cycling through all my loop to k letters until it gets to j then it's saying success why is it saying success because now it got j it knows where j is in a so now it's able to go to that position in B and add that to my encrypted string. So it's saying success ho gaya. But now it'll also run all the way till my Z, right? Now it's run till Z. Cool. This 26 loop is over. Now it's back on the top. That's why you have loop one value coming again. My loop one value's changed because this loop inside the initial loop is done. So now it's back up on this loop, right? This loop now the value is O. अब O की value के लिए it'll run through all my letters until it gets to O. Then it'll say O success because it's found O in A. So now it can go to that position in B, add that to encrypted. Cool. Now it'll still run through everything else till my Z. Right. And then now, cool. Now it's on the third letter of my John variable, which is H. Okay. Now you're on H, right? Now again, it's on my first loop. Now it'll run through all 26 of the second loop and then come back up to the second, come back up to the first loop. That's why once you reach Z again, it'll come back and say, oh, now the loop on value is N, which is the last value in John because there's 4 characters in John, right? It's got that. Now it's going to run through all the possible loop 2 guys until it gets to N, right? Like up there was N, so it's up here. Now it's N. Success. Wow, it's found the position of N in A. Now it's going to go to that corresponding position B and add that to the encrypted variable. Now you've got the encrypted variable, which is PGIF, which you can also check. JP, right? They correspond. O, where's O? Sorry. OJ corresponding. And then the third one is A and H. So is there an H? Yeah, there's an H. H became I. And then N, which was N became F, right? Cool.
Oh,
Now I think I should just decrypt this. Sorry, what are you guys saying?
No, I was just gonna say it for just of like my clarification. Can I like just explain for my clarification?
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah. Please do.
So basically, A is like the whole alphabets, B is like the encrypted thing. Okay, so when you for the first loop, length C like counts like it's like 4 letters. So it will essentially decrypt 4 letters. Then for the second loop, it's it's just defining that it's gonna run for all 26 alphabets. And then when it says loop to value equals to a counter, so it tries to find the value of j, for example, and when it reaches j, it says success, I guess, and then it continues till z, and then for o it does the same h and n, and it keeps adding the encrypted value. Is
Yeah,
that
that's
correct?
exactly what it's doing. So when it
Yeah,
says success, it's
thanks.
actually it's doing that after it adds the मतलब ए में उसने ढूंढ लिया जे किधर है तो whatever that position is now it'll go to B and be like okay corresponding to that position what is my encryption वाली alphabet that I need to replace J with. It found that, then it added it to encrypted का variable, and then it said oh success हो गया. Cool.